My fellow Singaporeans, welcome to episode 2 of my internet show Lim Tean Unleashed. After episode 1, I received literally hundreds and hundreds of messages and comments about the first episode and what you would like to see in subsequent episodes. It won't be surprising that wealth, finance and money, the misuse of it, the lack of it, was a continuing concern in your messages. And so in this episode, I discuss our money in Singapore, how the vast majority feel every single price increase and tax hike, and how the few elite, particularly those in our government, seem to have no anchor to reality when it comes to wages and the cost of living. I'll also be addressing fake news perpetuated by the mainstream media this week, and how the PAP regards anyone earning less than $500,000 per year as mediocre, and how their dismissive attitude towards ordinary people was very telling in their response when many of our health records were stolen. And lastly, a couple of my own core principles which I stand for with my new party. Let's begin off with the most sensational news which appeared recently when former Prime Minister Goh Chock Tong, who now holds position as Emeritus Senior Minister, made an outrageous series of statements. Firstly, I want to say a personal thank you to whomever it was who made the audio recording and shared it with Singapore. You are brave and upstanding to have done that. We do not yet live in a free country whereby you could have stood up in that forum and confronted Goh Chock Tong head on, and so you did the best you could, and I personally commend you. The PAP used to try and defend their salaries. The Prime Minister saying his salary, which is the highest in the world of any Prime Minister or President, was fair and realistic. He has been backed up by Grace Fu, who thinks that any less and people will be dissuaded from entering politics. And Member of Parliament Lim Tean, who defended that the extraordinarily high salaries bring dignity to politicians, who then won't feel so inadequate when talking with more highly paid CEOs. It would appear that the men and women who make up the PAP do not seem to know where true dignity comes from. I'll give them a tip. It cannot be bought. So once upon a time, they tried to defend their high salaries, and now it seems we have reached a turning point where they no longer bother even to do that. So Goh Chock Tong was answering a question, and the link to the audio is in the description box on my YouTube channel. A question that someone posed asking for an elderly pension fund, which could be maybe funded by a slight decrease in defense spending or perhaps a decrease in the ministerial million-dollar salaries. Goh Chock Tong's answer was chiding, and he scolded that person, that if the suggestion had been to raise GST by 2% to fund the pension, then he would have applauded the questioner. His reason, in his own words, was because you are taxing the whole society to support the older ones. Goh Chock Tong, you yourself are the recipient of taxpayers' money to fund your own salary. The entire government is paid for by the taxes of the people. It is quite simple. The people pay the government to serve the people. We Singaporeans pay more than our share but are being shortchanged. The fruit coming from the PAP tree is even more diminutive and shrunken than the durians given out in Teo Ser Luck's constituency of Sengkang recently. Goh Chock Tong then went on to say in his own words, I'm telling you that the ministers are not paid enough. Yes, my fellow Singaporeans, he said that. Then even worse, he went on to say, so where do you get your ministers from? From people who earn only $500,000 a year? You're going to end up with very mediocre people. Incredulous, isn't it? And very indicative of the disregard shown to the lives and struggles of ordinary Singaporeans. If the PAP believe that earning less than $500,000 provides mediocre talent, then I dare not utter what they must think of our teachers, our nurses, our carers, people who earn $100,000, $50,000, $30,000, or even less. This is not fake news. And this leads me to the fake news of the mainstream media. Fake news by omission. Now last week, the Straits Times created this bold red front page with the words "big news, not fake news" plastered over the front. The Goh Chock Tong story was both big news and not fake news. And yet the story was nowhere to be seen in Monday's publication nor Tuesday's. On Wednesday, it made its way into the Straits Times publication, but it was not an accurate report. And it omitted that part of Goh Chock Tong's remarks where he insinuated that people who earn less than $500,000 are mediocre. Ladies and gentlemen, that is fake news. Distorted stories cut to fit an agenda. Not surprisingly, they did not print the full transcript and instead cherry-picked portions of his statement to fit the preferred government agenda. Instead, once again, the alternative media, whom I like to call the preferred media, were the ones to report it swiftly and in its entirety, particularly the Online Citizen, who were the first to run with the transcript of Goh Chock Tong's statement. Goh Chock Tong's insulting statement has cut deep into the Singaporean psyche. It's a level of dismissiveness and I would say contempt for the ordinary men and women who make up the fabric of Singapore. And wasn't this disdain and dismissive attitude what we saw when our health records were stolen? The government's response was, "Oh yeah, your health records have no commercial value. Don't worry about it." This was firstly not true, as vigilant citizens researched and posted on social media how much money on the black market health records can fetch. But secondly, this disgusting dismissiveness of people's rights, people's worth, people's concerns, and people's privacy. Appalling. And I would add that this is the same attitude that gives us part-time MPs. Oh, I don't need to devote a full work week to serving the people. It won't take me that long anyway. I'll get my position and salary and expenses and then spend the rest of my time making real money because I'm not mediocre. And so we heard no apology, no resignations, redactions, nothing resembling any form of accountability. No one in the PAP denounced Goh Chock Tong for his remarks or distanced themselves from his remarks. It means that he has the support of his party for these offensive remarks. And over the weekend, a Straits Times columnist suggested that this was perhaps casual snobbery and that perhaps Goh Chock Tong misspoke. That is utter nonsense. If you read the transcript, it leaves no room for any misunderstanding of what Goh Chock Tong clearly meant by what he said. This was consistent with the long-held PAP view that they are the elites, the natural aristocrats, who deserve the highest pay of any public servants in the world. It's a tale of two cities. Those in government receive very large salaries plus expenses, have multiple income streams from board positions, other jobs, investment portfolios, etc. They have generational wealth whereby they can leave their properties to their children. They have a big fat cushion against any tax hike or price increase. And then there are the rest of Singaporeans, the vast majority, happy to have a job they pray they won't get retrenched from, a leasehold HDB that costs them a large proportion of their income, and yet with little value to pass on to their children. No expense entitlements or large investment portfolios to add to their capital worth. They have no cushion. They feel every single tax hike and price increase. Of course, for the likes of Goh Chock Tong, for the ministers, for all the others living in that first city, why would they have any understanding of what it feels like to live in the other city where everyone else resides? They belong to the high society, loftily cocooned from the rest of us. So what should be done? What are the solutions? It's not just about slashing minister pay and bringing our government costs in line to a fair and reasonable level. It's about empowering people financially, allowing them access to their own money, not crippling them with an onslaught of new taxes and price increases. My core principles are to restore the original meaning of our CPF. Our money accessible when we reach the age of 55. In order to do this, another of my core principles is to make accountable and transparent our sovereign wealth fund and our government investment corporations. What are the true accounts? Where are we investing? Where are they losing money? How much are they paying their managers? Not least the Prime Minister's wife, who heads Temasek. Without transparency and accountability, we are all poorer as a nation. And so that's all for episode 2. I thank you for watching, and as always encourage you to support the show by liking, sharing, commenting, and if you want to be a part of the show, then message me on my Facebook public page. Until next time, I thank you.